Welcome, guys. Welcome to Trauma Talks Live. My name is Russ Tellup. I am your host. I've got an amazing guest today for you guys. Colonel Bob McLaughlin was the former task force commander of Iraqi Freedom, chief of staff for the U.S. forces in Afghanistan from 2012 to 2013, garrison commander of Fort Carson right here in my hometown in Colorado Springs, and now the executive director of Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center. How you doing, sir?
Great, Russ. Glad to be here with you.
Man, I'm so excited to have you here. So do you mind just giving us a little history about yourself and kind of where you're coming from and who you are?
Honored to do it. So I'm retired from active duty in 2014. I served for almost 13 years. And how my active duty experience has shaped what I'm doing now to help veterans as the executive director of the Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center, which I've been doing for over 10 years. You know, 9/11 changed a lot of lives, especially those who have served. I've got 5 deployments in support of Iraqi freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, 1 deployment to the Balkans prior to 9/11. But every time you get to deploy with troops in defense of our nation, there's a whole series of things that you learn as a leader. And I had several opportunities to do that. Probably the most impactful experience I had was I was a battalion task force commander during the surge in Iraq. As an artillery battalion, and we had to train as provisional rifles. So I had to train my artillery troops to fight in close quarters combat against the enemy during the surge, and it was, challenging, rewarding. Everything that you can experience during a long deployment like that, I had an opportunity to experience as a commander. Combating the enemy, combating the elements, working with the community, it's all encompassing. So I'll tell you that 15-month deployment and working with troops, dealing with the loss of soldiers, helping families, trying to clean up bad areas, combating the enemy was an amazing experience for me personally, kind of set my mindset for what I would do after that in organization, in working with teams, and it's kind of set where I am today, and that was almost 20 years ago.
Sure, yeah. Which brings me to something I wanted to ask you, because I've never had the opportunity to speak to somebody in your position, right? When I was in the military, I was a PFC, so I was the one hiding from you guys. But in reality, you guys started right kind of in the beginning where we did. You started off as a lieutenant colonel somewhere, right?
Second lieutenant, 1986.
Or, sorry, that's what I meant. Second lieutenant, yeah, Paul. 1986.
Yep.
Cool. So you progressed in the military. You did how many years total?
Almost 30, about 29 plus.
Wow. That's a long time. That's basically your entire life, right?
Entire adult life from 22 to 51 years old. And then I retired in 14 and started doing this opportunity to serve Mount Carmel. So how does my combat experience translate to what I'm doing today? Very seamlessly. After I came back from the surge in Iraq, I got to watch the impact on our troops. We were very trained in fighting the enemy. We were very trained in dealing with combat wounds. We were very, very much trained in dealing with fatalities. And what we weren't trained on is the invisible wounds of war and the impacts that it has on our lives after war. So the whole term post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, I never heard it until I came back from that deployment and got to see firsthand the impacts of that trauma on our service members. And it really impacted me, and I became very concerned about how do we balance this? How how do we make sure we keep a fighting force? We call young men and women from our society into the military. They enlist. Some come with pre-existing conditions. We put them into combat, and naturally we can't expect A-plus behavior. So the ability to deal with discipline and compassion is something that we've learned over the last 15 years to be able to balance. Colin Powell said, if you break it, you got to fix it. So I would tell you, I got to observe us as an institution being better about making sure people are okay before we discharge them into society.
How do you reconcile the gap between discipline and compassion?
Well,
as a leader.
So the government pays us to fight and win our nation's wars. You're either deployable or non-deployable. And there's only so many slots in our military, and you have to be able to deal with somebody who can no longer fight and be compassionate as to how you transition them out of the military. Many systems have been born to do that. You don't want to, if someone's dealing with a wound, right, a physical or mental wound, you want to make sure that they transition appropriately, and the care that they're going to get from the VA for the rest of their life matches their needs. The whole premise of Mount Carmel and running this nonprofit is to fill the potential gaps. One of the things that was very key in my life, about a year before I retired in 2013, the Secretary of Defense put out a memo that said, we can't do this alone. DOD, VA can't do this alone. We're calling on organizations in America to help. Wounded Warrior Project was born, Hiring Our Heroes, many other national organizations came to being, and the good ones are still here. Mount Carmel is 10 years old. We've been doing this work and proud to do it. I think that what I bring to this as the executive director is an understanding of the importance of being compassionate to people in transition and giving them the opportunity to find something good instead of something bad in their lives.
Sure. There's a little bit of support where they don't usually find it.
Yeah, it's really, so for me, sitting in front of you today here in Colorado Springs, I'm a New England native. My wife is from there, which means we're Patriots fans, and we're resurging, which means I'm a Tom Brady fan. So after my deployment, I went to the Army War College in Carlisle, which is kind of a year to decompress, do some school, and spend time with your family. And then I got orders to be the garrison commander at Fort Carson. And it just so happened that the commanding general at the time, General Mark Graham, was very invested in dealing with the stigma of asking for help. He's a great leader. The Grahams lost two of their sons, one to suicide and one to combat death. And that's a large burden for someone to handle. And General Graham and his wife Carol kind of parlayed that into, what are we going to do to make sure if someone needs help, they get help. If they're wounded, ill, or injured, or a Gold Star family, how do we help them? So I came to Fort Carson with a charter to help with all of that. Very proud of the work my team and I did from 2009 to 12 at Fort Carson to help families of the fallen with the Fallen Heroes Family Center, to help people dealing with resiliency with the Wellness Center, to build a strong community outreach. And as a matter of fact, those 3 years before I had my last deployment to Afghanistan kind of put me where I am today. The late, great Jay Cimino, who was a Marine. We lost Jay 2 years ago. God bless him.
It was a hard loss, yeah. Big loss for our city.
Got one of the finest men I know. It was Jay that started talking to me about potentially retiring and doing something to help veterans. And of course, at the time, I was focused on deploying, and I kind of shooed him a little, and he was persistent. All great leaders are. He knew what he wanted to do. So Cindy, my wife, I have 5 children. That was 11 years ago. They're all in their mid-20s, and and my oldest is 30. So at that point, they were from 10 to 18. And he said, when I came back from my deployment, just think about this. Think about your experiences as a leader in combat and your experiences as a leader dealing with services. You know exactly what to do. I didn't really know what he was talking about at the time, but he said, just give me a plan. If you were to start an organization that was going to help veterans similar to what you did to help troops, tell me what it would look like. So I did. I wrote him an outline. If I had the resources that I needed, what I would do. And he shook my hand and said, "You're hired." And literally, and Cindy was all about it. So
that sounds like Jay.
So I went back and turned in my retirement paperwork, and I was back in Colorado Springs in the summer of 14. After I got back from Afghanistan at 13, I had one more assignment in San Antonio, Texas. And then I retired from there, came back to Fort Carson, did all my checkouts. And then the day I signed out on terminal leave is the day I started building the Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center.
And that was what year?
2014.
It's a long time ago. It
Yep.
feels like it was yesterday. And you guys moved into the old News 5 building.
Channel 5 and 30, it's 530 Communication Circle, about 17,000 square feet of space. We built a second building with about 7,000 square feet of space, and then we just opened a clinic, which is about 3,000 square feet of space. So if you're in this area, it's like a campus.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a gorgeous campus. So the original building, I've not been in the other two. I've only been by, but in the original building, you've got a lot of different things that you offer there, not just basic Veteran Service Center like you would see at the county or at your VA office, right?
Yeah, so there are 100,000 in this community alone, in the general area that we're in, 5 military installations to include Buckley, closer to Denver, about 100,000 veterans and about 45,000 active duty. The population of Colorado Springs is about 550,000. El Paso County, 700,000 plus. So a half of the people, or almost 2/3 of the people that are in this community, are militarily connected. So to have something like this located here is the right place to be.
Yeah, you're definitely in the center of the storm, right?
Well, we're hoping that it isn't a storm and that it's a nice, even wave.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
It can become a storm. The most challenging and at-risk time for anybody's life is when they're in transition, whether you're transitioning from the military, transitioning from a job, transitioning from a divorce, transitioning from a loss. Those critical times in life where somebody could take a path that results in some kind of trauma, that ultimately, in the worst case, might result in suicide, might result in domestic violence, might result in violent behavior. Our job is to make sure that doesn't happen.
A couple of weeks ago, I had a mutual friend of ours, Joe Lewis, with Angels of America's Fallen on, and he kind of talked a little bit about the process that happens when a Gold Star family loses their loved one in the line of duty, and how that unfolds. And it's drastic, it's fast, and it comes quick and it goes quick. So you have all these people supporting you, and you don't. But that's where you come in, right? Is to kind of take up some of that slack. And
yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the pillars that I leaned on as I built Mount Carmel was what we did on Fort Carson in 2010 for the Fallen Heroes Family Center. And you've seen it, and it's a place for our Gold Star families to heal, to help each other. And it's a brick and mortar place that brings people together to get counseling, we used to say survivors helping survivors.
Yeah.
Mount Carmel is veterans helping veterans. Some of them are survivors. So what I observed through that experience set my mindset on how having a physical place where people can go to get services that they need is essential. And I told Mr. Cimino when we started this that was one of my deal breakers, We need to have a place to do this. It just so happened that he had purchased the 530, Channel 5 and 30 building. And
Right.
this has been our home. We opened the doors on July 28th, 2016. Next year, we're going to celebrate 10 years of service. It's just been very rewarding.
Yeah, the parts that I've had over the last decade that I've been a part of have definitely been pretty powerful. And you guys are kind of really involved in the city and the community locally. It's a big veteran community here. We have, is it 5 military installations?
Yeah, Buckley is the 5th. It's closer to Denver, but we're still impacted, and we still.
So we have a really large concentration of veterans here, which probably leads to some of the higher rates in like veteran suicide and veteran mental health issues and things like that, just because of the concentration. But you guys are always out there in the community, always out there working with the city, with the county. There's some stuff coming down the pike, right, from Colorado Springs with some tax revenue and things. Are you guys going to be the beneficiary of any of that?
There's, of course, the marijuana tax dollars. I think the mayor is going to use that primarily for safety and not for behavioral health, and of course, that's his choice.
Sure.
We're always looking for, to keep the ship running here. It takes a variety of different funding sources. But more, Mr. Chimino always told me never talk about money, talk about programs.
Yeah.
So my analysis, I didn't need to do a 1-year study, or I had a pretty good idea of what needed to be done, and I'll tell you about how we built this and where we are today if you want me to do that.
Sure.
So, I had the pleasure of working with the great Army Community Services team, and their whole mission is to make sure, Army families are strong. As a matter of fact, when I was there, it was Army strong, family strong, and that really touched me because, you enlist. You commission a service member and you retain a family. So if the family isn't bought into it, you're not going to keep a fighting force. Same with the veteran community. If your family is not empowered to make sure that the ship is running, you're not going to lead a productive life as a veteran. So for me, especially with the most needy, the very first thing that I wanted to build is what has blossomed into our Military Veteran Family Services. It's really like Department of Human Services for veterans, where we provide for immediate needs of people. Just today, we did 3 things in the last 8 hours here. We did our biweekly food distribution with Care and Share, and that's more important now than ever because of the impact of the government shutdown on families. We did Turkeys for Troops, which is an annual event where I think this year we provided close to 900 turkeys for junior enlisted across the Front Range. And I had an opportunity to see the chaplains come and pick up the turkeys here at Mount Carmel. And I went to Fort Carson and saw the brigade combat teams decide based on their criteria. It was E6 and below with families to basically get a turkey. One of our partners, Veterans United, provided a bag of the fixins, and then they also got a gift card. So one may think that that's a small thing, but just to do that gesture annually to show that the community cares about our troops, to offset some of that financial burden for them, who knows? It could mean another present for a kid or something. So
absolutely, and it hit our community pretty hard. Like again, we have a huge concentration of military, active duty, and veterans, and not only that, but people who work for DoD, right? So there was that shutdown hit us pretty hard here locally.
Yeah. So this stuff is more important than I just left 5 minutes ago. I did an interview out front in the building. We're doing gift bags and gift cards for veterans. We have about 75 veterans that applied and qualified to get this, so it's offset some of their costs during the holiday season. So military veteran services is about case management. It's about helping people with the needs, and we call it a hand up, not a handout.
Sure.
You have to have a dog in the hunt, so to speak. If you have a challenge with something that you need financial coaching, we'll do that. We'll put out the fire, but we want to make sure that the troop in transition or the veteran is invested with their families through the process. So So very important. We help justice involved veterans. We're connected to Veterans Trauma Court, which is very, very important. My philosophy on that is most of our vets that are out there and commit a crime, 80% of them are due to some kind of combat stress, which impacts their behavior.
Sure.
And we make sure that they take a right instead of a left. The recidivism rate across America is 50% of those that are incarcerated and get out, go back. And we don't want that. That's a burden on society. That's a waste of somebody's life.
It's a burden on society. It's a waste of somebody's life, and it's a waste of an honor of service, right? You come back and you just don't know what to do with yourself.
And everybody, my philosophy on service is 1% have served. Everybody that's been in the military has succeeded at something, basic training. They made it through a deployment. They went to a specialty school. So they've experienced success in their life, and then to have a failure, they're more vulnerable, especially to be in the justice system. We want to make sure that they pay the price, whatever it is, whether they plead for something, and then we help them get on with their lives through case management. That's important. So kind of in a nutshell, military veteran family service is about the most at risk. When you look at the season that we're in, starting in September, which is Suicide Prevention Month, all the way through the new year, we do a number of things that try to set people up. We do Patriot Day Give Back to honor those who served and sacrificed since 9/11 with the annual Big Food Drive. We do the Homeless Stand Down in October to help homeless veterans get on their feet. We partner with other organizations, especially during the government shutdown, to make sure that there's extra stuff to give when people are hurting for a paycheck.
Sure.
I just told you about Turkeys for Troops and their gift bags. So anything we can do to offset some of the challenges during the holiday season is important. And that's just an example.
So, sir, you've given us 15 or 20 things that you're doing, but what can we do to help you guys accomplish your mission?
Well, there are three things that I ask. Number one, if you hear this and are connected, nobody falls through the cracks. If you know someone that's challenged and needs help, you can send them to us. And I'm sure, Russ, you'll give more information, but the number is 772-7000. The website is veterancenter.org, and we are at 530 Communication Circle in Colorado Springs.
And I'll share that in the show notes.
So that's number one, that we have resources, people who care. We don't want anyone to fall through the cracks. Number two is we like people with superpowers. If there's something you want to do as a volunteer, if you have something that you're good at, I had someone approach me with massage therapy. Somebody approached me with art therapy. Somebody wants to help with rides. So if you've got a superpower that you want to give back, we'll work with you. And then, of course, the third is fuel for the engine. If there are organizations out there that have fiscal support, we need it to make the engine run. So nobody falls through the cracks, partnerships, and then fiscal support.
Awesome. And then you did mention veteran families. So I've got a couple of people that I'm working with currently that have lost their loved one. They're Gold Star families, but they're not necessarily technically Gold Star families because they either met them after their service or whatever it is. If there's someone struggling because of the loss of a veteran recently through suicide or something like that, can they reach out to you as a veteran family?
So we define family very loosely, the physical connection, cousins, engagements. If you were connected to a loved one that you cared for that passed, we can help you, especially through our Next Chapter program that we do at BC Health, which is originally designed as a suicide prevention program, but it's really about helping people recover from grief, help them get on with their lives.
Yeah. And one thing over the years that I've noticed about Mount Carmel is there's something there for everyone. So even if you're not a service member and you're not connected to a service member, you've got a heart for it and you want to help it, you can go there and you can serve, right?
Absolutely. Volunteers, 772-7000. Today when we did our food distribution, we had many volunteers out there doing that. We did our annual fundraiser Friday night. We had volunteers helping us with that. So there's plenty of opportunities. I know I touched briefly on transition and employment. I have a whole staff that does nothing but connect military veterans and family members to employment meaningful. We have a program called Link, which is a 2-day immersion class about interviewing, about resumes, and then we have a networking event which we did last night. So that's transition employment with peer navigators. I have a counseling center which we work with interns that come to us and do talk therapy. We've got about 150 clients a week. We have a gateway program that connects whatever the need is. We have partners in the community that are in the behavioral health and physical health arena that we connect people to. The whole challenge with our veteran community is they don't like to ask for help, and to make it easy and they don't have to navigate something, that's what we specialize in.
Yeah. You think that comes from the military culture, that the stigma of asking for help?
Yeah, we it's not in us to ask, it's in us to give. So, when you raise your hand, that's, you've offered your life to the nation.
Mm-hmm.
You swore to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You're offering potentially your life for that. That's a pretty big investment.
Yeah.
When you have that mentality, you're really not built to ask. So we try to make it easy.
Yeah, you almost make it available to them without asking, right? You just kind of give them a list of what they have available to them when they come.
Yeah, and the whole key is to be low barrier. You don't, when someone's in need, the last thing they want to be told is no, or get a recording. You want immediate feedback from a heart-beating person that cares, and that's what we want. We don't want to get the runaround. We don't want to listen to AI. You want to talk to a person who's going to get you to a place that's safe and meaningful. That's what we specialize in.
And it is. When you call that phone number, you get a person, and it will get you with the person you need to talk to. It's pretty cool.
Quickly.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to bring up. Is there anything else that you guys have coming up that's pressing? Or
the other thing is I just gave you a recap of our services. The last part that I didn't mention is the Veteran Business Outreach Center. So
that's right. Yeah.
So we help veteran entrepreneurs start, keep businesses, troops in transition start, keep businesses, federally funded by SBA. My team does classes all the time. So if you said, okay, Bob, 10 years ago, where are you going to be in 10 years? My crystal ball would never say where I am today. But what I'm proud of is, we have behavioral health. We're able to connect people to their needs. We have supportive services. We have transition and employment. We're connected to UC Health with a great suicide prevention program called Next Chapter. We've got the VBOC. So to me, when American taxpayers look at the VA to do everything for veterans, it's misleading. Taxpayers pay the VA to do 3 things: benefits, healthcare, and burials. And really that's what the requirement is.
Right.
There's programs in there, but to come alongside the VA and offer what we call the gap services is important. These public-private partnerships, and you mentioned earlier with the city and the county and the state, it's especially during COVID, I think we learned as a nation the importance of having public-private partnerships.
Yeah, I was working on a presentation for the mayor recently, and I looked into the suicide rates in El Paso County and Colorado Springs and Colorado versus nationally, and I was blown away. 45 per 100,000 people among the veteran community in El Paso County, when the national average is 14 per 100,000. It's unacceptable.
Yep. So we're working with UC Health. We've had some success over the last year in the reduction, but.
Are you working with Nicole Weiss over there? Have you been connected with her yet?
Oh yeah, over at the UCCS, definitely.
Yeah, and I think she's in charge of the GRIT program.
Yep, and I've worked with her with GRIT. One of the things I'm trying to do is make sure that they become a community network of care to get outsourced by the VA. And that's something that Dr. Benight is also doing a study with us with veterans. They're an amazing organization. And so to partner with them is great. There's other organizations in the community. And I've seen with the mayor's leadership and the county commissioners, I just was over there briefing them last week. They understand that if there are grant programs that can provide dollars to a organization that's fleet of foot and expedient, then that's a good investment.
Yeah. I think investing in the mental health of any community is a good investment, but the veteran community especially has a strong need. So, sir, thank you for everything you've been doing for the last decade, because I've watched you, I've seen your heart in it, I've seen you pour yourself into it and your family into it, and I have a huge admiration for, after 30 years of service, to put your life to service again. So thank you for that.
Well, to tell you the truth, with many of us out there that have served, when you find a passion post-service that sustains you, it's like a gift. I pinch myself every day thinking, I wouldn't want to do anything else but what I'm doing. Today was an example. I got to get up in the morning, watch the military guys come, get their turkeys. I got to go on Fort Carson and watch the chain of command and see the smiling faces. I got to go to the lobby and watch veterans come in and get taken care of for the holidays. And as all that's going on, we're doing our normal biweekly food distribution, touching lives. So, I consider myself blessed to be able to do this work. And, we have a staff of about 45 employees here that are doing this work every day. And frankly, they do the hard stuff. I tell them, through our doors are not going to walk happy people unless they're coming in.
Yeah, they're not coming in because they're doing well.
They're in need. And it's often challenging to continue to work and support people, that may not have the resiliency to be kind. They may be distraught. Tough. It's tough to watch them do it every day, and they're good at it. And on the flip side, once they're able to disarm somebody, give them hope, provide hope where there's hopelessness. If you could sum it up in one word, hope. Providing hope.
Yeah. Well, you guys are offering that for the community and in a place where it was lacking. So thank you so much for what you're doing for all of us as veterans in the community. There's a lot of us, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we've got plans to continue to help rural veterans. I think we have a satellite office in Pueblo.
Yeah.
Got some vets working in southern Colorado in the rural community. And the real issue is, if you can hear somebody, you can connect, whether it's remote care, whether it's getting on the phone and calling. With technology today, we should not leave anybody uncovered.
Absolutely. Do you guys have anything in the works now for more outreach, or anything that you guys need help or volunteers for that I could help get it out the word for?
Well, the biweekly food drive, we always need help with. We're for the end of the year, we're pretty much set with what we're doing. Our angel tree to help with gifts. We could always use more gifts. We partner with the Marines, Toys for Tots. We get the bins out front.
That reminds me, I'm doing a toy drive and I needed to drop it off for Toys for Tots. Can I drop it off with you?
Yep, I got the 2 bins out there. The thing about the season of giving is it's amazing to see the generosity of people who want to give to the less fortunate and make an impact on a young child's life that might be without a gift over the holiday season, or maybe without food. So
yeah,
to be able to do that is awesome.
Absolutely. Well, sir, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's really amazing to have a leader locally that I know personally to be able to come on and talk about the mission that they're putting forward and how they're trying to help change the climate around trauma, and that it's okay to talk about this stuff, that it's not it doesn't make you weak to talk about trauma. It doesn't make you weak to talk about if something's hurting.
Well, and we have support groups here. And when I go to visit the support groups, I see strength. I see brothers and sisters helping each other, especially among veterans. You can't lie to each other. You're always going to tell the truth because everybody knows. And I think we try to bring out the best in each other. So for me, I would tell anyone that's struggling, there's somebody who cares. If all else fails, Mount Carmel cares, and we're here to help.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thanks again, sir. I really appreciate it. Guys, if you are interested in looking into Mount Carmel, sir, do you mind giving that address and that phone number and website one more time?
Sure. Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center, 530 Communication, no S Circle, 80905, Colorado Springs, 772-7000, 719-772-7000 gets the front desk. And then veteranscenter.org is our webpage.
Yeah, it's an incredible center, guys. If you walk in, it's a beautiful lobby. You walk in, talk to the front desk. They can get you with whoever you need to talk to. I went through them when I worked on my disability claim with the VA, and the veteran service officer was able to help. They have a beautiful chapel. I mean, it's just a very nice facility, and they have just about every service that you can possibly think of that you need. They've got someone to point you in the right direction. So if you need anything veteran related, or if you're related to a veteran and you need services, go down to Mount Carmel and they can at least point you. If it's not right there on site, they can get you pointed in the right direction. Fair to say?
Well said, Russ. An honor to be with you. Call anytime.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for being with us. This will air on podcast platforms in about, I think on Tuesday is when it drops. Otherwise, if you guys want to watch it again, it's on YouTube. Thanks again for joining us on Trauma Talks Live. One more time, we're just going to play the graphic for that fancy book just because I paid so much for it to have it made. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks again.